Thanks to Ford, and to celebrate our 100-year partnership, we're heading to the archives here at GMHBA Stadium to look over some of the items relating to our 1925 Premiership victory over Collingwood 100 years ago.
So Tom, as you know, this is a 100 years anniversary of the 1925 Premiership. Also 100 years since the Ford sponsorship. This piece here is a photographic piece of the actual day at the MCG. It was actually a record crowd that day when they played against Collingwood. This is a photograph of the captain coach, and this is, in those days there was no separate coach. The captain was the coach. And this is Lloyd Hagger, and his name's important because we'll come back to him, but he was the leading goal kicker for that year in 1925 with 78 goals.
Wow.
And later on in his life he became a journalist and a cartoonist.
Yep.
And that cartoon element to his life is really important, and I'll come back to that. And this is Dr. Piper, who was the president, who took over from previous president, and the Premiership team. And if you have a look at this really closely, they're actually eating oranges and all the rest of it. And they're pretty chilled out, and this was 3/4 time during the grand final, and they thought that they had it won at that time.
Yeah, it's amazing.
They're the captains about to toss the coin.
Yep.
And all of those photographs actually are part of this souvenir booklet that they made at the time, and this was put out by the club and the photographer was Bland, and he was the official photographer for the club at the time.
Yep.
And these are quite a collector's piece.
Absolutely.
Now,
One shilling.
yeah,
What's that in modern society?
about 1,000. The other things that are really interesting here is, remember I spoke about Cliffy Ranken here, who was the captain and the coach. Well, this is actually his Premiership medallion here.
Wow.
And in those days, these were made of pure gold.
Yep.
You know, the ones we get today.
Yeah.
It'd be fantastic if they were pure gold.
Magnificent, wouldn't it?
And they're all enamelled, and on the back, each of them are actually engraved. In those days, the gentlemen used to button this to their vest front, and the medals used to slip into a little fob pocket, it was called.
Yep.
So when you see all the old photographs of the fellows with suits on, they've got chains and things.
Yeah.
This is what was on the end of them. So that's his life members and his Premiership medallion. And of course the Ranken family is with Geelong Football Club. And Cliff's father was Teddy Ranken, who was one of the greatest of all time. And Teddy had two sons, Bert and Cliff, and they were both great footballers. Bert Ranken in particular was a great footballer. And up at Geelong College, they've still got the gates up there that are named after Teddy Ranken. So when you drive in the front gates of Geelong College, those gates there are the Teddy Ranken gates. When I spoke about Lloyd Hagger, and he won the goal kicking, they actually had the leading goal kicker of the year award, but they didn't get anything. So a few years ago they decided to retrospectively award medals, and this is Lloyd Hagger's.
Aged well if it was from 1925, looks pretty sharp.
It's a bit different to what they would have made for the day, but it was representative, I think, just an acknowledgement, and it was presented to his family. And with Hagger, he actually is a great story. So in 1923, we had a really bad start to the season. We lost all the games. In one of the games that Collingwood played a week before, Collingwood were getting done by, I think it might have been Essendon or someone. Anyway, this black cat wandered onto the field in amongst the Collingwood huddle, and what happened in the last quarter is there's this big Collingwood comeback, and they come back and win. So there was a cartoonist at the time in Melbourne called Sam Wells. So he created this cartoon of Geelong with this bunch of black cats walking amongst them during a game, saying that Geelong could do with a bit of this black cat luck.
Yep.
So what happened is they won the next 4 games in a row. And everyone thought, geez, It must have something to do with this black cat. So there was an enterprising woman who, unnamed, still don't know who it was, but she made 500 of these little badges with a black cat on it. And she sold them and made money out of it. Yep. But she sold them all at the Graham, and from that moment on, we were referred to as the Black Cats.
There you go. Because were we the Pivotonians here?
They used to call us the Pivotonians, and that name emanated from being the pivot, you know, the commercial pivot of the Western District. Yep. So the Pivotonians, and prior to that, we were the Seagulls.
I was going to say it was the Seagulls, yeah.
Well, it could be worse. I mean, Fitzroy were called the Gorillas.
There you go.
So the Pivotonians, and we became the Black Cats, and we stayed the Black Cats all the way through into the 1950s. Yep. So all the merchandise and what have you, and the representations of the club had us named as the Black Cats. And it wasn't until the 1950s that we dropped the black and we just became the Cats. Interestingly, I don't have it with me, but that first iteration of the cat with claws was also done by Lloyd Hagger, the cartoonist, in 1967. Incredible. But this is the one that he did back then in 1923, sorry. And this is what he presented. And Bert Ranken actually received an original of this from, that he got through his family. And so that's the original drawn by Lloyd Hagger. So the Lloyd Hagger thread that runs through this is really interesting, because he was a player. He won the goal kicking that year. He won the Premiership, and then he created this image, I suppose, that became the face of the football club for the next 50, 100 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Lloyd Hagger's role in this is quite important. This is just the membership ticket from the 1925 season. Interesting thing about this is that my wife's grandfather's name's on it.
Oh wow.
Because he was the treasurer here for 44 years.
Yeah.
So back in these days, the membership was around 1600.
Yeah.
Then they built the new grandstand, the Brownlow Young stand. Charles Brownlow, as you know, passed away in 1924, and on the back of that they built the Brownlow Young stand out there. And it burnt down 3 years after it was opened, which is really interesting. And as far as Ford is concerned, this is one of the, just a little copy of a cartoon coming back from Melbourne, I think it is. Football and Ford, yeah. And you know, without Ford, Geelong Football Club may not have survived. There's been 2 or 3 times during the history of the club when, you know, financial trouble had an impact on the club, and things were pretty tight around Geelong.
Obviously an amazing history, you know. Arguably, I think it's the one of, if not the longest, partnership in
it is.
Sports. So it's an amazing relationship that we do have with Ford, and great little cartoon, isn't it?
It is. It is the longest continuing sports sponsorship in the history of sport, of any sport, anywhere in the world. It's an extraordinary effort. Absolutely. And it's about maintaining a relationship between a football club, and football clubs can be difficult places to steer at times, and so can organisations like Ford. But the 2 of us as partners have created this thing, and together Ford and the Cats are synonymous. Absolutely. And when you look through the old photographs and you see photographs all around the ground, there's Ford everywhere, and it's synonymous, as you say, Tom.
Iconic. You were very, very lucky. Make sure you get down to our round 4 game to commemorate our 100-year partnership with Ford. Get your tickets now.